Welcome to our newly rebranded channel, the A&S Way. Why are you laughing?
No, it's weird to be a part of it now. Normally I'm just behind the camera,
Yeah.
so being in front of the camera is still quite awkward for me, but it's good to have a name that
He
fits.
says he's awkward, but
It feels awkward.
I think I keep telling him that he's much more natural at this than me, I believe, personally.
I think the words off camera, you're a talker, you don't stop talking, you narrate your life as you walk around the house.
He
So
really
it's
does.
easy for you.
Yeah, because I watched one of his the blog that we'll publish soon on a day in the life of Anton.
Oh, that's the one that's published already.
Oh yeah, so I've watched that, and it's funny because that is literally how he is. He will talk through his day and narrate. So for me, it's just him filming. So that's why I say he's a natural.
Yeah, okay, accepted.
But on the topic of this video, we've done a lot of kind of filming what we've been doing and the catch-ups, and it's been quite casual in that sense. But we thought we will do a really clear video on the 10 things that you need to do in your first week. A good few of you are moving to the US soon, so we are hoping that this would be really useful for you guys in just those things that you should do in that very first week.
Yeah. Or the things you should avoid doing.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. So what's number one?
Well, number one is money. You really need to think about how you're going to pay for things straight away. So imagine you've left whichever country you're leaving and coming to the US. You need a way of paying for things. It's quite simple. You can have cash, US dollars, or you need to think about whether you've got a debit card or credit card that you can use to pay for things.
Yeah. One tip I would say is have forms of income that are not reliant on your employment before you come. If you can, I know it's not necessarily that easy, but if you have something that's constantly paying you whether you're working or not, it makes life a lot easier. And we'll come on to a couple of these points where we assumed getting credit here would be quite easy. It hasn't been. A couple of people have mentioned, how do you go about buying a car? You need cash.
Yeah.
That's it, really.
Yeah, so the thing about money is making sure you have a buffer of money to see you through the period until you get paid for the first time in the US, definitely. In terms of how we prepared, we didn't actually take any US dollars, physical cash out. I had some left over from my prior trip, so I think I had about $35
Yeah,
in
something
cash
like
or
that.
something,
Just minor cash.
which we didn't use, in fact, but what we did do is we had the Starling bank account, and there is no charges for that. So we both made sure we had money in those accounts so that we could pay for things.
Yeah.
The next thing that you need to do is think about how you're going to get about, so your transportation. We decided to, through my company, I had a rental car for 30 days anyway, but then that's only for a short period. So you really do need to think about how you're going to buy a car. And you definitely need one here.
Yeah. We had 45 days, but we only used 2.
No, it's 30 days.
Oh, sorry,
It's
yeah,
30 days.
30 days of rental car, but we only used 2 of them. So we pre-prepared by looking up cars, how to buy them, how to lease them if necessary. So a good month, maybe 2 months.
Yeah, so before we got here, we talked about budgets because we knew we wouldn't it wouldn't be that easy to get finance. In the UK, you've got so many options when you're born and raised and have credit. Here we knew that wasn't the case, and therefore had set aside money to buy a car.
Yeah. So we already had that cash there, should we need to buy one. I did look into lease options, and I'll put a couple of links down in the description box to companies that specialize in leasing to immigrants. Now, we didn't end up using that service, so I am not promising that they will be able to do it, because we've had some terrible experiences with these supposed new immigrant services. So I'll put them in. If it works out for you, great. If not, that's how it goes. What we ended up doing, though, was looking on websites like Carvana, and
What was
there was
another
one
that
other really
she
good one.
recommend?
Oh, CarMax is just a
Okay.
huge, it's like a car supermarket. We have them in the UK. It's a huge car supermarket, has all of the brands in there, horrendously overpriced. If you can get there, lease options or PCP options as we have in the UK there, it's far too expensive for me. One of the things that will come up, I'm fairly cheap. It might look like we have a really nice lifestyle, but I'm really cheap with stuff. I hate the idea of wasting money, so putting $1,000 a month into somebody else's pocket just isn't for me. So what we ended up doing was finding a 2015.
Yeah, we went back and forth for a bit, but you found a really good deal, and that's why we went for it, because Ant had looked at lots of deals in the lead up and wasn't finding anything.
Nothing.
Really.
And the ones I was finding were really high mileage, older, standard cars for more money than we ended up paying. It just happened to be, I think, one day in, we found a deal that was $4,000 less than I originally wanted to pay, and we went there. Wasn't as smooth as we liked, because
process, yeah.
Again, everything's a painful process here. Here you can only pay $5,000 on a credit card, and then it has to be check or cash.
Oh, yeah,
That you can bring in 100,000 cash,
true.
no problem. And they said, "Oh no, we know often it's fraudulent." What? But I can't pay you on a credit card, which is legitimate.
Forgot about that, yeah. So that was the problem, because I thought in my mind that we could just put it all on a credit card and then I would transfer the money I had in the account to pay off that credit card, but we couldn't. So that was a cap, and then I had to use the debit cards on Starling, and again there's a cap on that, so then...
We had to transfer it across different
So
days.
you had, there was money in
I
your
had to
account,
pay.
my account, and then credit card.
It's difficult. Don't assume it will be like the UK or any other country. They have specific rules here, and specific to each dealership, depends on how much they want to accept.
And of course, dependent on the price of the car that you're paying for it.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So for us, it ended up being plus tax, 21,500 for the car plus the taxes, which you forget about every time I go to
Yeah,
purchase
it gets
something
me every
here.
time.
In the UK, if it's a used vehicle over 3 years, I think, you don't pay any VAT or tax on it. Here, if it's used and sold through a dealership, you still pay tax. Who knows why, but that's the rules here. So for us, it was quite a lot of money, so we had to find various cards to pay it off and put cash
You
in
got
different
there in the
places.
end.
Yeah, it took a couple of days, but
But what I would say is I would probably get a car rental for the first 2 weeks, just to cover yourselves, and then extend it if needed, because you might not be so fortunate in finding a car that quickly. Unless you see something that you like before you leave for the US, then maybe shorten that time. And also think about the type of car that you want.
Yeah.
Because we have now really appreciated the car that we have. Everyone was like, get an American muscle car.
And anybody
sports
that
car.
knows me in particular, I'm into sporty cars, or cars that can be sporty, and then rebuilding them. So a lot of people were disappointed in my choice, but in actual fact, it's been amazing. Firstly, it's super comfortable. Secondly, you'll see in the moving day video or vlog, I chucked everything in there. It took us 3 trips to empty the 2-bed apartment. Everything goes in, whether you need a 22-foot ladder, I think it was in the end, that goes straight in. You can put boxes in. So consider the lifestyle you're intending to leave. Don't just come and say, oh, I just need a really small, cheap car. It might not fit you, and you'll end up selling it or buying it too.
Yeah, or having, if we didn't have that car, we would have had to have hired a U-Haul van. So for us, it was really practical, and we saved money just by doing it.
And the last point, I think, on transportation is it's really location dependent in the US. Some cities have reasonably good public transport. If you live in San Francisco, for example, you've got the trams, the train, the BART, whatever it's
Yeah,
called.
you can get away with it there.
New York, again, you've got a subway system that actually works. Las Vegas, and particularly Summerlin, it's got a score of 1, I think, for public transport. I don't think I've ever seen a bus.
I have. I've
you?
seen people waiting for the bus here, but
You've never seen them on the bus, you just see them waiting.
Yeah, that's true. There are buses here, though.
Yeah.
There's definitely buses, but you can... We met another couple that have moved here, and they didn't have a car. They didn't think they could buy a car for some reason, but you explained to them how they can. But they've been getting Uber, so there is that option as well. You can Uber around, but then the problem is then you're waiting on an Uber when you're trying to get around, and then if you're carrying things and buying things, I just personally don't think that's that practical.
Yeah. And then our next one was cell phone.
Yes.
Or mobile phone in the UK.
Yeah, and I did not appreciate how important having a US number would be until we
It was
tried to get
purely
services.
by accident, or not accident, it's because I live on my phone and I communicate with a lot of people a lot of the time. So day one I knew I needed, because my contract had run out, I knew I needed a US SIM. And it turned out every point of contact requires you to have a US SIM. So Celine was going to wait.
I was waiting on my work phone to come, and I didn't even really think about it, but when you're trying to get an appointment with the Social Security office, when you're trying to set up services, they won't accept the UK number, and a lot of them texting you, it pretty much, you need a US number straight away.
It's nearly as important as the Social Security number, which we'll get onto at some point. What I would say is the ones where you walk in and buy a SIM card, it's going to be really expensive for that first month. They charge you activation fees and basically they're ripping you off. They're charging you all kinds of fees you don't really need to pay. So it ended up costing us $90-ish for that first month. I then found a company which uses, I think, the T-Mobile network called Mint. And for the first 3 months, you get 15 gigs worth of data and it's $25 per month, so $75. And you buy them in 3-month blocks. So it's worked out a lot cheaper. It's actually 3 months for the price of 1 month on Verizon. But if you need it for that first month, just go out and buy it. It'll pay back.
Yeah, I think you won't, unless there are other places you can go where you can get that instantly. The great thing about going into the shop is we literally had that number on day one of being in the US.
Yeah, it saved us quite a few times.
So because Ant had got that US number, and when we signed up for our bank accounts, we then realised, depending on your phone, whether it's an Android or an Apple, the store is attached to whether you're in a UK location or a US location. Now, I was still using my UK number at the time, and I was trying to download the Bank of America app, but then that's not a possibility of the UK Android app, or what was it called, the Google Play Store? That was
something like that.
The Play Store, yeah. Whereas Ant had his US phone, which had access to the US Play Store, so he could get the app straight away, and I couldn't. I had to wait for my work phone.
So just be aware you need to be on the right Play Store, if it's Google, in order to download some of the applications. Some of them are available worldwide, and some of them are specific to the US market. And what will happen is if you've got a Google Play balance, it doesn't transfer over to your Google Play US account. So just be aware of that. Spend it before. It doesn't delete any of the apps that you've previously had, so spend all of that cash and then change over.
The next thing that you need to think about, and we really didn't get this, and it was advised to us by our destination person that was helping us relocate, is getting a mailbox here. And this is a very common concept here in the US, something that you wouldn't really have in the UK. But it is really useful because you're going to be somewhere temporary, whether it's a hotel, Airbnb, corporate housing, however, wherever you're staying for that temporary amount of time. The idea with the mailbox is you have somewhere secure that you're paying for, that you know no one else has access to get your social security, your banking details, and it was really convenient for us.
It's really convenient. Apart from, if you choose to use a mailbox, most of the companies that need to verify where you live will not accept a mailbox address. So if you've got your first debit card statement sent to that mailbox, you're in trouble. If you get your social security sent to that, you're partially in trouble unless you keep your social security card attached to the address. So it comes in two parts. If you tear that off, that's it. If it's attached, some people will accept that as your actual place of residence.
Yeah, and that's the relevance. It's the proof of your address, and because you're then having this temporary address, but then you have this mailbox, it can cause a bit of confusion. So it's great from a kind of security point of view, but it can cause a bit of mix-up.
And just on that, it's not relevant to the points that we're making out, but the US, you're paranoid. They're paranoid about everything. They're paranoid about living, they're paranoid about breathing, they're paranoid about bills, they're paranoid you're not going to pay $15 water bill. Terrified of identity. Everywhere you go, everybody's talking about fraud and be careful with this and be careful with that, whilst following it up with write all of your details on this piece of paper and leave it with me here. Absolute madness.
There's a reason why you need to be worried.
Exactly. The reason there's so much fraud is because you're writing everything on pieces of paper. Get rid of that, and the fraud will reduce at least. So yeah, that's just one of the little frustrations that we've had with people constantly banging on about fraud and then asking us to write stuff down.
And then you worry that you'll become like that, and then suddenly you'll become really paranoid about
The
stuff.
best thing is we've grown up in the UK, so we don't have those kind of fears. It's kind of funny to see it. And even the neighbour that we've just recently met, I said, you don't have to give your social security in order to get water to your house.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, oh, but then nobody would pay their bills. And how do they get? Like, immediate jumps to paranoia, as if you're just going to say, most people pay their water bill. It's not a real thing.
Evidently not here.
Well, yeah.
You don't have that social security number.
That's it.
But in terms of getting the mailbox, we got ours through Postnet. There's loads of them dotted around. You can do a Google search, but I think lots of companies do it. We paid $58 for 3 months. We might extend it. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, there's definitely, once you've got your permanent place, there's definitely conveniences to have that, especially if you know you're going to be passing that area quite a lot. It just means somebody will always take your package in.
Oh yeah, that's great, because we've had Amazon
Yeah.
deliveries there, and we don't have to worry about being there. Although here, they just leave it outside your doorstep. It's
Yeah,
very bizarre.
paranoid, but leave it outside. Strange. But that brings us on to the social security.
Number, and that is the thing that you must have, and I cannot stress this enough.
I call it your prison ID. To be a citizen of the US, you're essentially a prisoner of the country. It's as if
code,
you've got a
this
roll
number.
number,
Yeah,
and that is your identity. Unlike the UK, we have the national insurance number, which is kind of a number you use purely for employment. I don't know
I
where
think it's
else you
short
use
of them
it.
taking that literal blood sample from you and taking
Yeah.
every kind of like biometric kind of
Yeah.
DNA, everything.
So everything you need will be based on that social security. So apply for it as quickly as you possibly can and turn up to the appointment when they allow you to, because you're going to need it to turn on electricity, gas, water, banks, getting loans, getting credit cards, everything.
I think the utility bit was the shocking bit. I knew like banking for work. I got, especially the work concept, because our national insurance is pretty much only really used for work
Sure
and
it
maybe
is, yeah.
benefits in the UK. You need a national insurance number, but
Yeah.
you don't use it for anything else. So I think the utility thing was really shocking. In terms of getting the social security number, I was told to try and book the appointment from the UK before, so that you don't have to wait 2 weeks to get an appointment. It really didn't work, because I think trying to call from a UK number, when it got through, so I would sit there for about 10 minutes trying to, or 15 minutes, and then it would just cut me off. As soon as we got to the UK, I called from a US landline. You still have to wait ages. Try and pick a good time to call, maybe first thing in the morning. The lady then says that she'll put you through to the right department eventually. Then they then say, okay, we'll look at this, and then somebody will call you back in 48 hours. They did, and then they tell you the time. You turn up. You have this form, so you and your dependents have to fill in this form perfectly. Do not make any mistakes on this form. Maybe take a backup form. We did that with you. We did, because we wasn't too sure, so we took 2 versions of the form. You need your marriage certificate, I-94 form, offer letter. Just take everything with you when you go to this appointment, just in case. You get there. We were there for about 15 minutes.
Yeah, it was really quick.
And that was it. And then we were really lucky. Within a week, we had our social security numbers. We have heard it can take months. I'm not entirely sure why. State dependent, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure why, but I can see how, because one of the things you mentioned there was forms. This country runs on paper and pen and forms and being there in person. So we have this, I would love to think it's a joke, it's probably not. We feel like you fill in the form, somebody takes the form, and then they manually walk it at the end of the day to the next office that needs to receive this
I'm pretty
form.
sure that's what
and
they
then
do.
they write it down on another piece of paper.
And then sometimes it gets lost.
Yeah, which we've experienced with some other things, but it's very paper-based, very form-based, and very procedural, is what I would say the US system is. It has to follow the procedure. People don't make exceptions, and people don't like to, what would we say? What's a polite way of saying?
Not think forward thinking.
Forward thinking? No, that's probably too polite. It is. No. They don't like to use their brains. They don't look at things and say, "Oh, I can see what the issue is here. Let me work that out for you." They're like, "Well,
I like to think they do see the issue. They just don't want. They just like succumb to it.
maybe I've had too many bad experiences." Selena's been fortunate; she's been working, so she hasn't had to deal with the people on the phone that just don't seem to get it.
Ignorance is bliss in this case, definitely. That leads to the next bit, and this it will really depend on your situation, whether you're travelling to the US alone or you're going with your family. It's whether your dependents need a work permit. Now, in our case, I automatically can start working in the US, but for Anne, he cannot apply for his work permit until he was physically here. But not only that, he needs his social security number. So this is how that's linked. You need your social security number, and then you can apply for what they call a work permit. It's an EAD, and everything's online. You have to fill in something called an I-175 form. There's lots of different forms here that you need to keep up with. But we will do a dedicated video on that process because Anthony's going to share it with you, aren't you?
Yeah, when I start it. At a minute, I'm relaxing. I'm not relaxing at all. It's probably more work than I've ever done.
I've actually started the form for him to make it easier for him, but he needs to actually do it.
Yeah, we'll get around to it.
Yeah, I'm done with forms. So the one thing I would say, get ready for a lot of form filling when you come to the US. It's horrible. I hate it, but that's just part of the process.
She says this after I just told you that, and the previous one.
But it's true though. It's just so true. And then I'm thinking about you applying for your work permit.
It's really painful. We will keep saying it. It's 20 years behind, at least, the UK in the financials, in the paper. They're saying they use less paper. They don't. They use more paper than we used back when we were paper-based. It's painful here.
Yeah, and the other thing, just factor in the amount of time that your spouse won't be able to work for, and it could be, depending, the best case scenario is that you get your social security number really quick, you apply straight away, and then you get it in 2 months. But reality is, plan for up to 6 months of your spouse having a short break from work.
Yeah, potentially more during COVID time. I know that the lady that's just moved here, they've been here 2 months already, and they've been told it's potentially 6 months, and I think that was from 1 month in, so they've still got 5 months to wait before they can work. So this sort of touches on the other points at the beginning, which is prepare yourself financially.
Yeah, definitely.
You really need to consider how much of an impact moving here, losing a salary, potentially more, depends on how many people you have earning in your house, and whether that's manageable, or at least save up before you come out. What's next?
Your bank account, your US bank account. This is very important. You need to receive funds from somewhere, and you know how much we've discussed the banking system here. It's been experience.
Getting progressively more painful, not less. It gets worse as time goes on. And I think we assumed we've just arrived, we don't fully understand it. It's only that initial bit where you have to be there present in person.
For 3 hours in a bank to open a bank account.
In the UK, the only people that like going to the bank are older people because it gives them something to do. People enjoy it. My nan used to like going to the bank. Your mum likes going to the bank. And you interact with people.
Well. They think it's more trustworthy than the digital banking.
Yeah, but most people our age that I know bank online. Nobody, I don't think my brother's been into a bank.
No,
it's just not necessary.
No. It was fun when I was a child, going with my dad for the first time and opening a bank account. Now it's not fun. I've got better things to do with my time than go to a bank.
It's not just the time there, it's the time getting there, particularly in the southeast, you have to find somewhere to park, which might be a 15-minute walk. So you might have driven 10, 15, 20 minutes, 15-minute walk to the bank, half an hour there, back. It's just a complete waste of time. However, in the US, you're gonna have to get used to it. You're going to have to get used to open a bank account, you're required to go in. You'll meet with a bank clerk, I guess they're called. I don't even know their names.
There was a name. I can't remember what they're called. I mean, what we had done was we had an appointment booked at Wells Fargo initially, and then we changed to Bank of America. But you can get that booked before you get to the US. So I would say book that before you get to the US, so you're not waiting another week or so. But try and get that mailbox before that appointment, because you will need that if you want your debit cards sent. And that was, it's just timing. And the mailbox you can do on the very first day. We did it literally the day before we went to the bank. The bank appointment took, like I said, 3 hours. We opened individual bank accounts and a joint account. Now, this is something I didn't really think about. Because it's not easy to transfer money between people here, because you need to use all these other services. If you intend to transfer money between you and your family, get the same account with the same.
It's easier to do that. What I will say about the banks is the system is a scam, 100%, and I'm not going to make it nicer than it is. The whole thing is set up in order, one, to keep people gainfully employed, depends on how you look at that, might be a good thing, might not. But everything comes with a charge, everything. So if you're using a cash point that is not allocated to your bank, you get charged. To draw money out of your account, you get charged. To get a check, you get charged. When you go and open a bank
For
account,
your own money.
you will be charged on each bank account that you have open. So where this becomes a bit of an issue is, I have a bank account, Selena has her own bank account, and we have a joint account. Now, each one of those come with a $14 a month, was it?
12, yeah, something
12 or
like
$14
yeah,
a month
something
charge.
like that.
Now you can mitigate that by having either $1,500 held in that account at all times, or you have to put $250 in each account per month, which is fine. However, you can't transfer it internally. That doesn't count towards the $250.
And the guy that opened our bank account actually said, because I asked him that question, so if I receive money, can I just transfer into the joint account and to the other account? He said, yeah, that's fine. When I looked it up, that does not count. It needs to be from another external source, essentially.
And for the people that are watching that are from the US, you are being scammed out of your money. In the UK, very, very, very rare you will be charged to transfer money, and depending on which type of account, you have faster payments, which means nearly immediate. I mean, it's instant, sometimes up to 2 hours, although it never takes that. Anything from, I think the minimum now is 10,000 to 50,000 you can transfer to any person or company free of charge at any point. You can use all cash machines, providing it's at a bank, for free. There are some, the smaller, if you go into a local corner shop or
those
gift store, they might charge you, but that's the store making that choice. If it's a standard bank ATM, you could be banking with Barclays and go to a Halifax cash machine and get your money out for free. There's also no requirement to use checks. The checks that we used went out in the late 90s. You can just transfer the money. There's no reason for it. We have one united system that allows you to transfer money in between accounts, from your account to somebody else's account, free of charge.
It's so bizarre. And I said this in another video. It's like going back in time in the banking system. What I remember from my childhood or something.
So we opened up the account, that was 3 hours. We spent maybe 15 minutes getting a cashier's check.
We were lucky that time.
And then the second time we spent, in total, including travel, about 2 hours just to pay somebody some money that we both lost. And obviously, where I was driving and Steve was doing it, because we thought it was going to be a 10-minute process, that's 4 hours of our day lost to pay one person some money. And we got charged $15 for the privilege.
Yeah, the first time the lady didn't tell us. The second time the lady told me, she said, "Oh, we're going to charge you $15 for this." Right, I know.
So that has to change, America. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how you guys accept it. What we're going to do going forward, though, is now we're kind of set up, if any service says that we need to pay by check or that there's some form of charge, that is not a service we will be using. I know we're just nobodies, but if more people do that, banks will have to respond. It's just, and this isn't just the UK.
That's a fight cause,
yeah.
Just get in there.
This isn't just the UK, most of Europe. I met a Swedish girl the other day, and she's just like, she's been here 2 years. She can't believe it. It makes no sense to us.
That's going to start the revolution against the banking
against the
system.
banks. Again,
in
it's
the US.
money. They're robbing me both of time and money. So I don't mind paying somebody to save me time. If I feel that that value buys me a certain amount of time back, I'm happy. They want my time and my cash. Okay, had to take a break for this one.
Now, this is the next one, and it's a very important one because you will need this to really be able to do most things in the US. But it's also probably one of the hardest things to do. It's get a credit card. We did not realize just how hard it was going to be.
It's really, really difficult. And I think the reason is you had spent a lot of time looking up new immigrant, I think I said visas in the last video, but new immigrant credit cards. And I guess we got suckered in by the fact that it said new immigrant, which made it sound like it's set up for new immigrants.
It's not. It really isn't. Don't believe it.
It's so difficult. And the reason we're not planning on getting credit cards to run up loads of debt at all. The opposite. Here you absolutely need to have good credit. And you'll see from the other video when we were attempting to rent places, people want to charge you more if you don't have credit on file. People want to charge you extra deposits against the house if you don't have good credit. So simple things like that require you to have US credit.
And they pretty much say start spending on that credit card straight away so that you can start building up your US credit. But it's just getting the credit card in the first place.
So here's the part that really drove me mad. Here you have the option, and I'm sure in the UK you do, of a secured credit card. And I'm sure we've explained this before, but for anybody joining and just watching this, a secured credit card means you take a certain amount of money, so between $300 and $3,000, you hand that to the bank. The bank gives you a credit card of the same limit. And then you spend on that, but you still pay the money back, and they reassess it monthly, and they can refund you the deposit that you put down, the secured amount, at some point in the future. So they're double protected. You've already given them the money. So even if you run up that $3,000 credit card, they would just take that money, and that's it. Impossible to lose for the bank. Easy. No. Rejected. Rejected once, twice, 3, 4, 5. Absolutely just point blank, no, you can't have it. It got to the point where we were phoning through, and this was over the period of like 5 weeks. We had tried Bank of America, US Bank, Amex, Capital, it's not Capital One, it's Capital Bank.
Yeah.
Loads of them.
Open
Sky, they all rejected both of us. Now, I mentioned this in another video. Often here, you're required to have a certain amount of credit lines. Ridiculous because you're a new immigrant, but they require you to have 1 or 2 credit lines already open. Now, I don't know how you're supposed to get those if they reject you. Or the other option is they will request from the IRS your previous tax years. Bearing in mind, we're new immigrants. We cannot have previous tax. Maybe they're checking just to make sure you haven't been here before.
It just doesn't make
Makes no
any
sense. So they've requested those, they come back and they go, yep, you're rejected. What are they rejecting us on the basis of?
The secure thing doesn't make sense because in itself you've guaranteed it. And here's my take on it now. If you need a credit card, just go for Jasper. If you're working, it works for those who will have employment. So those of you who are coming here on a working visa, there is no reason why you shouldn't get the Jasper credit card. I love it. I'll do a dedicated video talking about that. Just go for the Jasper. It's the only one that I know currently works. For all of the others, and I will test this theory, so I'm going to give this a month. I believe you need to be in your permanent residence with utilities, bills. You need a couple of months of having that social security number. And then I think, and I say think, you will be able to get it. Just don't try and do it as quickly as we did. I think that was a mistake.
I would agree with you. However, new immigrant.
No, I don't.
New
whoever
immigrant.
wrote that was wrong. I don't think
But
they
it wasn't
checked.
just one. There's lots of them. It's not one person. This is the bank advertising it as new immigrant. And the fact, it would be fine if they say, right, new immigrant, but you need to have been here for 2 months or 3 months. That is not what they advertise. They advertise it as new immigrant. Welcome to the country. Apply with
Maybe they're trying
us.
to steal our identity.
Probably.
That's it.
More
It's
fraud.
It's fraud.
Yeah.
That's the reason.
They're like, these people aren't registered yet. We'll probably have loads of credit run up in our names. It's the system here is outrageous, is what I would say. The financial system, the bureaucracy. So it's really frustrating. And again, this now touches on the previous points we've had. Have cash available.
Yeah, definitely.
Do not think that you will come here, and you might get really lucky. We do know oddly, the other couple, the guy that was transferred here for his job, rejected for the card. The lady, who is now technically unemployed, even though I think she was a software developer because she can't work, similar to me, credit card.
So bizarre. I
Bizarre.
don't know.
Bizarre.
That doesn't
Same
make
bank
sense.
as us. Again, I just don't know how
They pick and choose.
this system works. Yeah, maybe it's like a lottery.
You can
Yeah.
get it.
So the point, I think, is simply that really make sure you're financially secure. Don't put yourself in a position where you're going, oh, I was banking on getting a credit card and now I can't, so I'm going to be scrimping for the next month.
The one thing I would say is worth trying, definitely apply for the Amex card. And the only reason I would say do it, one, you might be lucky enough and they might give you the credit card, but you do end up with this Nova credit report, and I do believe that's really useful. So we've used it to get our rental agreement. It converts your UK credit into to the US number, so
Yep.
it matches that. We've used it for a rental, and we've also used it to apply for mortgages here. So it's at least worth it for that.
Yeah. We've got a whole thing on the mortgages. We've gone from immediately buying a home to renting to a mortgage, back to renting, and now actually renting, but potentially still getting a mortgage. But that'll be a whole different video. But you're right, it is useful for that because it at least shows somebody your financial stability at the point that you're applying. They know they're not wasting their time with you. So that is the massive benefit. However, I would say Amex are utterly useless, especially when speaking to them. So use them for the credit passport.
And then
but
don't bother.
they're useless, really. They were the most frustrating. It's the only one I lost my patience with. And that was due to them asking me to fax. Use a fax. 2021. So anybody watching this in the future, this was filmed in April 2021, and Amex, American Express, a financial institution, asked me to fax them my stuff.
When you mentioned it to the Swedish girl, she said, "What's a fax?"
Yeah,
she
she
didn't even
didn't.
know
So
what it was.
she's
younger
13
than her.
years younger, and she said she ended up having to try and convert the word into Swedish because she just thought she didn't understand, and she still didn't get it. I said that's because you're far too young to remember a fax.
The next thing is finding your home. Now, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about how we found a home because we did speak about that, I think, in the last catch-up last week. Explain
Yeah, that
why,
was catch-up, yeah.
why we ended up renting and the buying. But home finding is super, super important. What I would say is don't rush into it. Do not try and pick somewhere from the UK or wherever you're coming
Yeah,
from.
that'll be a big mistake.
We learned that seeing a property is very different to what you think you see in the pictures.
Yeah, it may be different in other states and potentially other areas, and different areas in different states might run it differently. Here has been an eye-opener as to not trust what you see online. So definitely make sure you're here, especially because you're probably going to be committing quite a lot of money for at least a year.
Yeah.
Make sure you know what you're getting into, unless you really don't care, because I would say 9 times out of 10 you will be surprised over the property that you will be walking into if you agree before.
And I would say it's more than just the property, it's the area. We pretty much from the first day decided to go out and drive and look at places, and even though we were super tired and jet lagged, it's like probably a bit delirious at times, but you quickly find which areas you like, and I think it's really important to spend that time in the first few days establishing where you would like to live, because you are going to be there for the next 6 months or a year.
However, I can save you all the time, and if you want to trust me, it will be West Summerlin. There is not a person, if you can afford it, everybody you speak to is like, yeah, I'd love to live there. If they can't afford it, if you can afford it, that's where people are moving to, which is why the prices are skyrocketing. So if you want to save all of the time and ignore the previous thing that we said about coming here yourself, just find somewhere in West Summerlin, rent it. You'll be, even if the house isn't amazing, the area is stunning, and it's so easy to get around, other than public transport, but on foot and by bike. You'll love it here.
The last thing that you need to do when you get here?
I can't remember.
enjoy it. Just try and not get too frustrated with the finances, getting checks, standing in the bank, not being able to get any credit, but explore the area.
Yeah, potentially living on the street because you don't have a home.
Homeless.
Don't worry about all of that stuff and just enjoy it. And if you end up on the street, enjoy the sun. You get free sun.
Don't spend too much money because you might be broke and homeless, basically. Is
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
which was an actual real possibility, but no, really, these frustrations are really short term. And every day I get up, especially me, because I don't have to sit in front of a computer anymore for 7 hours a day like Selena. It's just so nice to wake up to the sun. And even today, it's a lot cooler. It's just nice. The sun, the mountains, you feel a lot better. I feel more energized. Even if I've only got 4 hours sleep, I feel
I can tell the difference.
amazing
Yeah.
being here. For the people that enjoy England, I think you enjoy England because you've grown up there, maybe, and that's where your family and friends. You cannot beat this place. It has, other than the finances, everything you could want of the UK, plus the sun. Now, unless you don't like the sun,
Some
maybe
people
you like
don't.
the heat.
A lot of people don't like the heat. And the sun.
Yeah. You can't really lose here. So for us, it's all of the downsides aside, it has been 100% the right decision. And if we can enjoy it at this point and still see that it's been well worth it, it's going to get a lot easier as time goes on. So I can only imagine it's going to be nicer or better for us.
Yeah, and I know lots of you are moving to the US in the next few months, whether it's to New York, or maybe we've made you think New York is too cold for you.
Far too cold.
But maybe you're even considering Vegas. But wherever you're going in the US, hopefully you've had, ideally you could pick the place, that's the ideal choice, but obviously if work are determining where you go, hopefully it is somewhere nice and that you can get something out of the lifestyle. Fortunately for us, we were in a position where we could kind of pick. We knew we wanted somewhere warm, sunny, food. But wherever you go, I'm just saying, enjoy that first week. Go out, enjoy the food, enjoy the lifestyle. If you're not, then perhaps you've made the wrong decision for it.
Yeah. And the
Abort.
yeah, abort and turn around and go back. The lifestyle thing is massive. It's you're going to see in the other videos. We've already set up our home gym. We've got 3 home offices now. The space that it affords you. And we were quite against having the big home. It's been a day. I'm like, no, this is the 2,500 square foot is the minimum anyone should have. If you've got a family of 4, maybe 5,000 square foot.
We only moved. Well, I've moved. Well, no, we moved in.
Moved in last night.
I feel like you've been here all week. We moved in last night and kind of used to the space already. Who was it? Starlan was messaging because I think you're moving from Singapore to the US, and you were saying how you weren't sure about whether you get somewhere small or spend out more and have all of this. Go for this.
Yeah.
If you can afford it, I would
it's worth
definitely
it.
say do it, because I think life is for
Enjoying.
Enjoying,
Sensibly.
within your means.
Within your means.
But it's the little things every day that make you happy, and I think if you can do it, definitely do it. Don't be crammed. I mean, I'm so much happier just being here. That apartment was draining the life out of me.
Yeah. Okay, well,
There is our 10 things.
so what have we got to say?
I'm on a mission, guys, here. So, I know. So actually, I looked at the statistics recently on YouTube, and I think there's about 60% of people that are watching our videos consistently are not subscribed. So please do subscribe. It massively helps us, and it's just great to see the interaction. We're learning now what people want. This is why we've rebranded. The comments have been really helpful, because then we get, okay, this is the sort of content.
Yeah.
But do subscribe and say that you've subscribed, because it's me.
They'll only be saying it though, they subscribe for me, really.
You think it's about you?
Yeah, of course
The
it
A way.
yeah, just rebrand in 2 months again.
But yeah, please continue to comment. We are planning on, we were talking about scheduling. We didn't want to say that we were going to get videos out consistently simply because of me, actually. It's more about my
Yeah,
time.
I didn't want to commit to anything we didn't know we could do, and it's far easier for me to say, yeah, we'll get it all done, because I have a lot of spare time in the day and I can produce them, and Celine doesn't have that. However, we have come up with a plan. We're not going to commit right now.
Yeah, we're not going to advertise it too much.
But
yeah.
what we're going to at least strongly aim to do is get 2 videos out per week from now on. And whether that means it will be the pair of us or Selena just guest stars for a few minutes, we'll attempt to get 2 videos out per week.
Yeah, and let us know what you think about the new rebranding too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Tell us what you think about the rebrand. Tell us what you think about my video that's just come out before this one, which is essentially a day in the life. You're just following me around, doing the move, buying stuff, nearly falling off a ladder. People have requested that specifically, so hopefully it works.
And when I get time, I will do the same as well.
Yeah.
Right,
All
thanks for
right,
watching.
thanks.